Okay, so as we mentioned, it's titled Rick and King Morty's Mort, which is a play on another legendary film from the 90s. A kid in King Arthur's court dropped in 1995, and it followed a kid that loved baseball who came face to face with King Arthur. He fell through a crack in the ground caused by an earthquake and ended up training as a knight of Camelot. In the end, it helped him with his baseball playing because he was completely crap at it. Now the knights don the classic knight's clothing with a sun symbol on the chest that looks similar to the Mithraic in Raised by Wolves. One also has a similar design that the knight carried in Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, which, as we all know, wasn't The Last Crusade. In what's probably the most apparent similarity, these are potentially based on the Warriors of Sunlight from the game Dark Souls. The Covenant even had a similar symbol, and they acted much in the same way, as did the group in Monty Python's Knights from the Holy Grail. Knights have of course looked like this throughout the centuries, but when we're reaching for movie and TV references, those are the ones that sprung to mind. Now Rick gets some hot dogs that look a bit like shrimps, and Morty picks up the food that the knights drop. This starts off a quest, and it's a similar framing device to Westworld, when people would pick up Dolores' can, and it would start off an adventure. Morty takes his sword, and the knight stabs himself with it before they're transported across the galaxy in a sunblast. When we see them land on the other side of it, it appears like the Bifrost from the MCU. Reminded me a lot of when Thor came down on Wakanda in Avengers Infinity War, and I also love this joke as well before we talk about the title sequence.
You guys still gonna stand in line? You're not gonna take this food?
The pop-up pays us to stand here, to drive up business.
Knew it!
Now Rick tries to take Morty out of there, but he's only allowed to live if he bests the king in combat. Rick then gives Morty a sword that uses AI to learn its opponent's attacks. It's seen Blade and loved it, and this is also similar to Iron Man's armor in Civil War. In their final fight, that analysed Cap's fighting pattern and then came up with a way to break it so that Tony could get the upper hand. The king commits seppuku upon losing, which is what ancient Japanese samurai used to carry out when they thought they had no honour. Kristen Cole also entered in House of the Dragon after the knight lost his honour, similar to what we see here. Now speaking of Game of Thrones, one of the knights that reads from the rulebooks also looks similar to Sam from that show. The knights are very much like those that took the black and promised not ever to feel the touch of a woman. Now, upon returning home, the sword goes off and Rick says,
Hell yeah! See, that's from when he's fighting Deacon Frost!
Deacon Frost was the villain from the first Blade movie, showing that it's all connected. Coming together are the people of all planets, including the Viscounts of Venus and the Marquis of Mars. The people of Venus all look like women, and I think this was done to tie into the phrase, women are from Venus. The Marquis of Mars have their own style too, and shoutouts to our editor Matt for pointing out that they're wearing similar clothes to the characters in John Carter of Mars. A blind oracle then appears, and these were typically used in the olden days to prophesize the future. Most recently, an example of this could be found in the Northman with the seeress who was played by Bjork. You meet the Earl of Earth who looks identical to Santa, and also one that looks like Poseidon. Though he was the god of the sea in Greek mythology, he was also seen as being the god of Neptune, hence his appearance here. They then flee and jump off the ledge into the sun upon fleeing. The knights recount how this brought peace back to the solar system, as it was the ultimate sacrifice. They're no longer cutting off their willies because of this, and it shows how the society rules have changed. They discuss how after they jumped in, how bones floated to the surface, and how they even checked with a royal ladle. Now this calls back all the way to Season 4 Episode 8. In that, Rick planted a fake vat of acid at a meet with gangsters, and he and Morty jumped into it after the deal went awry. Here they hid it out and had to pop up to kill the gangsters because they wouldn't leave. Morty said how stupid the idea was, and the rest of the episode was basically an elaborate ruse to ruin Morty's life so that he had to jump into a fake vat at the end in order to hide out. This is also the episode where Rick basically prestiges Morty, and we get Eric Clapton's song It's in the Way You Use It. One of my favourite episodes in the entire show, so this explanation had me absolutely dying.